As this past working week has progressed, one could easily have found oneself feeling pretty anxious and desolate. COVID, Capitol Hill, Brexit, lockdown, decorations away, grey, cold weather. Then miraculously, yesterday morning, once again the light shone bright, and for a few hours it seemed every piece of dry, hardened earth absorbed that heat, and sprouts of new life came up. Everywhere I looked, especially in our oasis garden here, beautiful signs of new life as those bulbs cracked through the ground. Epiphany season is well and truly upon us. This season of great light and hope, where in all we are called to embark on a new journey, a journey to a new home. And we are to go through much darkness, wilderness, as we travel on this adventure towards the light and the newness, our eyes and hearts open with anticipation of surprise and transformation. Whilst not deluding ourselves, times are really hard for us, for strangers, for those who are sick and struggling, alone and isolated. But in our worship too, we move remarkably quick through times of great lightness and darkness as we travel from the manger to the cross. So in this time, let us together explore the questions of Jesus' birth, his life, his death. And for those of us striving to embrace this journey, the repeated questioning and discerning, what has this got to do with me? Today we remember and celebrate the baptism of Christ. For Mark, today's Gospel writer, the baptism is the first story he tells of Jesus' life and ministry. There is no census, no genealogy, no birth narratives, magi, shepherds. The only detail we are given is Jesus comes from Nazareth of Galilee, and he is baptized by John in the Jordan. For Mark, the baptism of Christ is the key, and in the very sparseness of detail, it invites each of us to deep ponderings. Jesus appears, it seems, from nowhere, for we are told nothing of who he is. We are told nothing of his parentage, his upbringing, his identity. And we could think maybe Mark knew nothing of Christ's early life. But maybe for those whom he writes, this backstory is for us to ponder, and his attention focuses on the baptism. Jesus is a first-century Jew, and like all those flooding into the countryside, has expectantly been waiting for such a time as this. The Torah, his lifeblood, and now rumour has it the words of the proof prophet Isaiah are coming to fruition. Those with eyes to see and ears to hear are called on this journey. See, I am sending my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way. The voice of one crying out in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord, make his paths straight. Jesus leaves his work, his home, his worries, wherever he's come from, and heads into the wilderness, alongside streams of others, in faith, obedience, and humility. We know not if Jesus, or indeed his cousin John, knew that he was the one who is to come. But his very presence shows he commits himself fully and utterly to taking his place, whatever that place may be, in faithful preparation for what is to come. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice. though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. These poignant words from a poem by Mary Oliver speak of a call from the deep, a call that when its day finally comes overrides all other demands, pressures, struggles with simply a deep certitude. This is the call to follow, a life-saving call that no longer can be ignored, a call upon your life to lose yourself that you might be saved. As he came up out of the water, Jesus saw the heavens torn apart and the Spirit descending like a dove upon him. A voice came from heaven, "You are my Son, the Beloved. With you I am well pleased." Jesus, proclaimed and anointed as the beloved Son of God, in the very waters where Joshua led his people into the promised land, the presence of the ark dividing the waters and forming a channel for the Israelites to cross, and now the Anointed One, Christ our Lord, dividing the waters with his own body, leading us and all his people to the promised land. Jesus' baptism committed him into a life in relationship with a generous God, a life open to the Spirit who dwelt within him, yet also came again and again upon him, a pattern of life and death and life again, a pattern of dying and rising that reversed the world's wisdom, denied the conventional, and revealed glory where least expected. So let us be inspired by his example as we actively set out on this Epiphany journey, tantalized and drawn by the great mystery of God's call to us, his beloved children. Let us be undaunted by the darkness, the chaos, the wilderness, and remain firmly rooted in the foundations of our own baptism. Amen.